When I was in high school, I had a friend named Mark. He was one of the nicest guys I knew, with an infectious smile that lit up the room. Mark had this incredible talent for video games. He could navigate digital worlds as if they were an extension of his reality, and he always seemed to find a way to win. I admired his skill from a distance, feeling both impressed and slightly envious. But that envious feeling soon transformed into inspiration. One sunny afternoon after school, I worked up the courage to ask him if he wanted to play a game with me. He agreed, his face lighting up with excitement. We set up the game console in his living room, and I felt a rush of adrenaline at the thought of challenging him. As we faced off, I was determined to finally defeat him. I dove into the game with all my energy, pulling from every strategy one had learned through countless hours of practice. The screen lit up with action, and I thought I fought valiantly, but Mark's skill soon overwhelmed me. He seemed to have every move memorized, countering my attacks effortlessly. He won that first match, and then the second. As rounds proceeded, my frustration began to boil. I could feel the sting of defeat creeping in, and it was hard to accept. I was confident in my abilities, but Mark had an innate understanding of the game that made him superior. There was a moment during our third match where I clutched the controller too tightly in annoyance. "How are you so good at this?" I exclaimed, nearly throw my controller in frustration. Mark chuckled, clearly enjoying our rivalry. "It's just practice, really. I play a lot and learn from my losses," he replied with a reassuring smile. The way he spoke, from a place of humility, struck something within me. He didn't gloat over his victories. Instead, he shared his attitude toward growth. And suddenly, my perspective began to shift. Instead of seeing each loss as a failure, I realized I could view them as opportunities for improvement. "How do you practice?" I found myself asking. Mark embraced the chance to share his journey with me. He talked about how he spent countless hours watching professionals play the game, analyzing their techniques and strategies. He mentioned learning from mistakes, taking notes on what worked and what didn't, and, most importantly, approaching each game with an open mind. His insights were refreshing. They lit a spark of determination within me. From that day on, I resolved to improve. I started by watching videos of top players and studying their moves, trying to transfer their techniques to my own gameplay. Every night after homework, I practiced relentlessly, learning to embrace my defeats as stepping stones rather than as evidence of my ineptitude. Each match became an opportunity to refine my skills, focus on my weaknesses, and celebrate my small successes. Weeks turned into months, and slowly but surely, I began to improve. The more I played, the more confident I grew. When I faced Mark again, the world felt different. I was aware of the things I had learned and the strategies I had honed, and that sense of awareness gave me strength. We set up the console just like before, but this time, there was a hint of excitement in my heart. The first round began with a familiarity laced in the air, but this time it was mixed with a bubbling excitement. As we battled, I could hear my heart pounding but felt oddly calm. I managed to counter his moves with practices I had drilled into my muscle memory. And in the midst of that intense competition, I felt a shift. As the game drew to a close, against all odds and expectations, I had pulled through and attained my first victory against him. Mark erupted in laughter, clapping me on the back. "Told you, you just had to keep practicing." His joy was palpable, but then he turned serious for a moment. "But remember, every victory will lead to another challenge. Keep that growth mindset." As I walked home that day, I felt lighter than I ever had. It wasn't solely because of my victory, but because of the journey it took to get there. It was in this moment I understood that self-improvement stems not just from hard work, but also from the willingness to learn from every experience. Each setback strengthens our resolve, and embracing the struggle is what leads to eventual success. The weeks that followed were filled with practice sessions, but they came with new opportunities for learning. I began to realize that self-improvement is not a destination, but rather an ongoing journey. Each game with Mark became less about winning and more about learning. He continued to beat me, but now every loss felt like an essential part of my transformation. As time passed and I grew more skilled, I found that my passion for gaming started to intersect with other aspects of my life. I applied the same lessons of perseverance and resilience in my studies, in new friendships, and even in personal challenges that arose. I would recall Mark's mantra, "Embrace your losses," and let that drive me forward in everything I did. Eventually, I decided to lead a small gaming group at school where fellow enthusiasts could come together to share techniques, improve their skills, and learn from one another, just as Mark had taught me. I remembered the pride I felt from contributing to other people's growth and helping them engage in the same journey of self-discovery I had experienced. Years later, as I sat in my college dorm room, reflecting on how far I had come, I realized that Mark's influence had pushed me to pursue excellence beyond gaming. I found success in my studies, made lifelong friends, and embraced challenges rather than shy away from them. The camaraderie of our gaming sessions had transformed into a network of support that reminded me of the importance of community along the path of self-growth. It hit me like a wave of clarity. Self-improvement is as much about embracing the learning process as it is about achievement. Just like in gaming, every level is designed to be conquered, but the lessons from those levels are what ultimately define our character. It shapes our resilience and our perspective on both wins and losses alike. And so, I'd like to conclude with a thought. We all have our own unique journeys towards self-improvement. There will be victories that will inflate our spirits and losses that might weigh us down, but the beauty lies not in the outcome, but in the lessons we learn along the way. The key is to continue evolving, to embrace every challenge as a stepping stone toward the next level of our lives. Never forget, it's not just about the destination we seek, but the growth we experience in the process. Like my friend Mark, let us all strive to approach life with an open heart and an open mind, understanding that in every game, every love, and every challenge, the pursuit of improvement will always lead us to enlightenment.